it's not a secret that I'm a fan of Tom Cruise, okay? This franchise has been invaluable when it comes to the quality of cinema that we get these days. These past few films have been the renaissance for this franchise, but also for action films in general. The draw to see this movie, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, is that the entire title? Because I feel like I'm missing something. It's a really long title. What is the point of doing the Part 1, Part 2? Yeah, I get that there's a continuation, but each film has had a continuation anyway. You've already had a continuity since 3. They've gotten rid of calling each film, giving it a number. Call this one Dead Reckoning and be done with it, and then call the next one a new title, a new subtitle. These films exist for the draw of seeing Tom Cruise do actual stunts in real live locations, and it to be shot on IMAX and to see it on the biggest screen possible. We used to watch IMAX for ocean dives, space exploration, and little did we know, Cruise was destined for this format.
Narrated by Tom Cruise.
Thankfully, because of Nolan and then the boom of IMAX with other filmmakers doing the same thing, we then had it introduced into the 4th film, Ghost Protocol. To see Tom Cruise do the climb up the Burj Khalifa is one of the best action sequences of all time.
No shit!
Oh, it makes my feet and palms sweat watching that sequence. It's fucking amazing. One of the things that I regret not doing is seeing that film in IMAX. IMAX works the best when it's utilized for action sequences because of the expanse of the screen. You're focusing in on deeper into the and closer into the center of the image instead of, say, a close-up like in Oppenheimer. We'll get into that a little later. Witnessing unbroken shots of Tom Cruise doing stunts in these movies are where the riches of these movies live. The film doesn't disappoint when it comes to seeing live action stunts, essentially, live action entertainment. It's a rarity now to have this in our films. Okay, I want to get to the MVP of this movie, and she is Hayley Atwell. This is a star-making performance. When she shows up on screen, it is striking how charismatic, likable, and how perfect she is in that role. She's vulnerable without being weak, confident without being arrogant. Fucking take notes, Phoebe Waller-Bridge. If Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy Disney were smart enough to actually want to cast somebody who was actually appropriate for a female counterpart for Indiana Jones, it would have been Hayley Atwell. I was watching the movie with a friend, and I turned to him in the first sequence at the airport, and she's giving all kinds of looks. She's giving witty responses back to Ethan Hunt, and they're both bantering back and forth. It's awesome. I turn to my buddy and I say, dude, she's fantastic. It's no joke, and it's not hyperbolic to say that her performance is awards Oscar worthy. She nearly steals the film from Tom Cruise. There's no other actor in this franchise that I can think of that came close to doing that. They had standout performances, like Philip Seymour Hoffman is the best villain in this franchise, but he didn't steal the film, really, you know? Who can do that? While you're seeing this film, it is so easy to get a crush on Atwell. She's a draw to want to see the next film, and hopefully they make it and the strikes don't. Well, they're going to delay it probably. It's inevitable that the strikes are going to need to delay part 2. It sucks. Because let's face it, Cruise is not getting younger. You can tell the separation of time that's occurred between sequences and sections of the film, and it's kind of distracting to me. I don't know if it is for anyone else. The best stunt of the film is him riding off the cliff. The best part for me is after he jumps off the cliff and he's shouting to Benji over the comms, I'm trying to get away from this mountain. Because you see the wind rippling against his face. You can tell it's real. It's not a beautiful looking shot. You don't get the perfect lighting. You don't get the perfect set. It's raw. It's real. That's awesome. It's so rare. It needs to become less rare. We want to bring this back. I've said this before with my Top Gun Maverick review. I think the best sequence for me is the car chase with the Fiat. I don't think it has music in that sequence. You hear the squeals and the the driving over the terrain of the roads. Again, going back to feeling as though you're witnessing a raw series of events that played out, and they did. They really shot this. And there aren't any fucking green screens, and that's spectacular. And what adds to it is that the dynamic between Ethan and Grace is actually analogous of a marriage and a relationship, where they have to work together. I've seen the film now twice in the theater. I was experiencing it the same way as before. Like, I wasn't bored. This is what's really cool about this franchise, is that the main stages, so to speak, of the fights, the chases, the rescues, while implementing emotional character work, have great rewatchability to them. And there are other parts around the film that don't have a great rewatchability about them. I mean, one of the things, a couple of the things that are drawbacks for this particular entry is there's too much talking. There's too much dialogue it's overwritten, essentially. There's a sequence at the beginning of this film where they're in the offices of a government agency. Cary Elwes is in amongst a whole bunch of other people, and they're conversing about AI and its lethality. It reminded me of a scene from a Neil Breen film.
A crisis. Programmable virtual reality.
We have evidence of the largest cyber and terror attacks ever planned.
The entity breached Saudi Arabia's General Intelligence Directorate
and assimilated their top secret active learning AI before vanishing into the cloud.
Subsequent attacks increased 10,000-fold overnight.
This is very serious.
Homeland Security is ready.
The FAA, NASA, and the combined branches of our military.
The dialogue felt so unnatural, and as if they were just spouting buzz terms. There are 3 sections of this movie that are too long. The sequence at the beginning in the governmental meeting, the scene in the club where they're philosophizing on who's gonna die, and then the scene where they're all talking on the train. I'm not saying cut out those sequences, cut it down. It's just too long. Because of those sequences, it's 20 minutes too long, I would say. Yeah, and in terms of the AI, apparently the entity is a soothsayer. It can tell when someone is going to die, and for Gabriel, the main villain, to be the mouthpiece of the entity, does he have late night briefings with the AI? How does he communicate with this thing and gather information? That was not made clear at all. Does he have an earpiece? Does he have late night meetings? Like where he's on his phone, or is it connected to his brain? Like that's not elaborated upon. And I think it needed to be. There are a few connections to the first. I mean, one of them is, obviously you have the return of Kittredge. It's nice to see him, and he's back. To have that frenemy back and forth that Ethan and Kittredge have. I mean, they have a lot of history, going back all the way to, it's like 30 years. Another connection to the first film, the sequence where he's running through Venice at night trying to save Ilsa. He's wearing the exact same clothes that he wore in the first film at the beginning when his team died. No one else has pointed that out, but it's a visual cue to hint at, someone's gonna die in this sequence. I thought that was really cool. Like, I love this stuff. It's giving me chills talking about it because this is good stuff, So yeah, you got a couple of those connections to the first film, which is really cool. Clearly some Dutch angles. Here's a little deep read about Ethan Hunt. The movie shows that he is an allegory for Christianity.
Your life will always matter more to me than my own.
You don't even know me.
What difference does that make?
Look, it definitely speaks to Cruise's hero complex, but within the context of the movie, it's thoroughly effective. His very name is homonymic to the word ethos, the characteristic of beliefs and principles. Obviously, the film had its struggles when they were making it. I mean, even the director, Christopher McQuarrie, admits the chaotic nature of making it. He even confesses that he never read the script. He's the writer.
Everything was trepidatious, but you had to keep moving things forward. So I've never sat down and read the screenplay from beginning to end. It never existed in that form until the movie was finished.
So it was sectionally written, essentially. He also said that it's important that the film feel conclusory. And I didn't get that sense with how it ended. It really does feel like a cliffhanger. So I don't think he accomplished what he set out to do in that way. A big note for me when it comes to the action sequences is that the dust clouds that plume from the crashes, etc., there's something about the way that dust is animated, and it's the same with water too. There's still an artificiality. Basically, they look like standard CGI plugins. When they did the lightning in the clouds for the Halo jump in Fallout, it had that feel too, and I didn't like that. It's a real action sequence, a real stunt, and they cover it up with CGI. That was one thing that drew me back about how they're going forward with this, is I think they're implementing a little more CGI than they should, and I wish they wouldn't do that. Yeah, I enjoyed the film. I think it's definitely worth seeing in the theater, for sure. It's kind of unfortunate that the film is not making as much as it could be because of Oppenheimer taking up the IMAX screens. In the past 30 days, we've had this confluence of all these anticipated films that have come out, and now there's just going to be a drop-off. You get so many choices in the theater, and that's how it's supposed to be. That's how it's always supposed to be like that. And hopefully that dynamic will come back again to the movie theaters, more on a consistent basis. Okay, I gotta move on to the next review. Thanks for watching, and show love to this video, and I'll see you next time.